Disappearance Day of Srila Narottam Thakur. Well, we're happy to be with our friends tonight. Were you in Navadip at the same time as Mahamantra Prabhu?
Yeah. I thought we were all there together.
Yeah, I mean, we must have been. Yeah.
I mean, of course you guys stayed longer than me, but...
No, I'm thinking because you were coming earlier. Mahamantra Prabhu came after Gurudev left, right? So you were still coming that time. Yeah.
Right.
Now everything is like a blur, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Oh gosh. Gaurapanima in Navadip is a blur, and Beta Life festivals are a blur. For sure.
All right, so Om Jnana Timinandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Guravishtasha Purakam Ruganer Shisha Sambhushitam Chincha Samasta Veda Nipunam Shirupa Pantanugam Govindabhiramuchvalam Bharatanam Bhaktam Mitam Sundaram Vande Vishwaguruncha Divya Bhagavad Premna Hibijapradam. So today is a very special day for us, the disappearance day of Srila Narottam Thakur, very great Acharya in our line. It is the 5th day this month of Kartik, I believe. And Narottam Thakur, he chose to leave on this day. And he is, particularly for us, the conditioned souls of this world, he is one of those, very great exalted Vaishnavas who we are especially indebted to, because he actively, tried to keep the message of Mahaprabhu alive and also to propagate it on a wide scale. And he put so much of Mahaprabhu's teachings and his songs, which we're singing, every day. Srila Narottam Thakur and Srila Bhakti Yoga Thakur, they are the two main songwriters, whose songs we are singing. So we are very indebted. And he did so much, after Mahaprabhu left, his work was so important in keeping these teachings of pure devotion alive. Because we see, after that, Narottam Thakur, there was Mahaprabhu, then there was Rup, Sanatan, the 6 Goswamis, and then the next generation was Narottam, Shyamananda, Srinivas. And then there was some gap, and then when it came to the time of Bhakti Yoga Thakur, things had become very much degraded, very much polluted. Of course, there were still some great Vaishnavas who were present, but not who were, working in this type of active way to keep the message alive and spreading. So Narottam Thakur, he is one of those very great acharyas, and he is mentioned, of course, in our Guru Parampara song that Srila Saraswati Thakur wrote, identifying all of those Vaishnavas who made a major contribution. And it is very striking, as Param Guru Maharaj points out, because Narottam Thakur's guru was Lokanath Goswami, and his nature was just the opposite. His nature was, we hear these two natures of Vaishnavas of the highest level. Bhajana Nandi, that they are more inclined to their personal bhajan, and Goshtya Nandi, who are inclined to spreading and preaching. And from the absolute perspective, they are on the same level. But of course, for people like us, we have some preference for this, generous mood, So Narottam Thakur, he had this very, broad and magnanimous, where he had thousands of disciples. But his guru was Lokanath Goswami, who he had taken a vow not to accept any disciples. And so when Narottam went to Vrindavan, he had received this instruction from Mahaprabhu, some inspiration that he must take initiation from Lokanath Goswami. So he came with this intention, he must take initiation from Lokanath Goswami, but Lokanath Goswami had vowed he won't take any disciples. And then there's that famous incident, Lokanath, Narottam, he, it was like 18 times he was, begging him for initiation, and then again, Lokanath Goswami refusing him. Then finally, you all know that history. He was, so intent upon this. He was thinking so seriously, and it's a beautiful example for us. Like if we have some service that we have to do, how serious are we about doing it? So not like you have some challenge and then, okay, we give up. Of course, sometimes we have to see obstacles that come in this way as some indication that we're actually resisting the flow, the higher flow. Sometimes these obstacles will come to indicate that, but we have to have some real clarity, and have some. We must be we must deeply contemplate each individual situation and try to understand, is this coming to test my determination, or is this coming to indicate I need to go down another route, But some, it's like there will be different variables you have to weigh up, and there will be like, things that are fixed that this is the case, and then there will be things you're not so sure about, and you can dispense of them. So in the case of Narottam, he already knew Mahaprabhu. He received this instruction from Mahaprabhu in his heart, in a dream, in some way. He received this instruction. You must take initiation from Lokanath Goswami. So this was a fixed thing. There's not going to be any other way about it. So even though Lokanath was saying no, he was fixed. No, Mahaprabhu told me, so I must find some way, Oh, it's a very inspiring example for us. And so then what did Narottam do? He was practically a prince, their family. They were from the Kayasta class. It's a lower class actually, but they were generally like merchants, wealthy businessmen. But they were so wealthy, they were treated like royalty. Srila Sridhar Maharaj said his father was Krishnananda actually. So he was called Raj Krishnananda, and his mother, maybe Malini, I can't remember. But they were called like royalty because they were so wealthy. But Narottam, what did he do to get the attention of his Gurudev? He went to clean his stool, in the middle of the night, So like how intensely was he thinking on this? What can I do to attract the grace of my Guru? He's my Guru. I've already decided he's my Guru. I've accepted him. I just need him to accept me. So in the middle of the night, he would go and clear this area where Lokanath would. And normally the pigs would go there, and they would do that job. But then after a while, Lokanath started to notice, it's very clean and fresh. So then he observed one night that Narottam, and he was astonished. He's like practically royalty and coming from this very high background, wealthy background, and he's stooping to do this menial service. And what could he do? His heart was captured by that. But what was his nature, Lokanath Goswami? He was so, reclusive. And as Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, he didn't like to associate with anyone, good or bad. Just no one. So to what extent that he wouldn't even keep a glass of water with him. Because if he did, somebody would come, "Could I have some water?" And then he'd be obliged to supply the water. So he'd when he needed water, he'd go to the Jamuna, take what he needed, then he'd come, but he'd keep his pot upside down, like that. Then he wouldn't have to deal with anybody. So he had that kind of nature. And then by contrast, Narottam, he was this very, broad-hearted, magnanimous, and generous, and active. And Srila Maharaj drew the comparison with one incident with Ramanuja, this Kanchi Purna, this Vaishnav, Sri Vaishnav. He had this mantra, which was said, it could deliver anybody who chanted it. And so Ramanuja went and he asked for Kanchi Purna for that mantra, and Kanchi Purna told him, "I can give it to you, but you have to promise you won't share it with anybody else." And Ramanuja, he made that promise. "Yes, I will only take it myself. I will not share with anyone." And so he initiated him into that mantra. And meanwhile, the news had spread that everyone knew this Kanchi Purna had this very powerful mantra. And so the news spread that Kanchi Purna had agreed to give it to Ramanuja. And so when Ramanuja came out, this huge crowd had gathered around, lining the streets, and they all eagerly asking, "Oh Ramanuja, oh Lord, what is this mantra? Will you share this mantra with us?" And immediately Ramanuja, he announced this for everybody. And Kanchi Purna heard that, and he became very angry, and he called him back and, "Oh, what did you do? You promised that you would not share this. Do you know what is the punishment for this?" And Ramanuja said, "Yes, I know, eternal hell, but I'm ready to face that. I'm ready to, if I can help these people, if I can deliver these people, I am ready to face that." And immediately Kanchi Purna's heart was softened. "Oh, you are this kind of a sadhu, this kind of a Vaishnava. I didn't know what magnanimous heart you have, and I withdraw the curse from you." And Ramanuja said, "This mantra is infallible. It's because there was some conception that some persons had that the mantras, this is one reason they were kept so hiddenly and only accessible to a select group, because there was some idea that the more these mantras are chanted, the more they will lose their power. That only a certain number of persons, Like we also hear this, there's some, I don't remember which group, but that there's a certain number of places in heaven, right? We've heard that, right?
Oh yeah, I know that group. They're called the...
But don't say the name, because then we'll be in trouble, we'll be politically incorrect.
Oh yeah,
So there was some idea like this in society, but Ramanuja, he points out, this mantra is infallible. The mantra will not lose its power. These people will be delivered. And I'm ready to go to hell if that is necessary. Just like Vasudev Dutt, he made that expression that, I'm ready to suffer. Let me take on the sins of all the people and suffer for the sins of everyone. And let the whole world, let them all be liberated. So such magnanimity of heart. And Narottam, his history is very special, because we're told that Mahaprabhu, he foretold his appearance. When Mahaprabhu was going to Vrindavan the first time he went, but then he didn't go in the end. And it was, I can't remember if it was on the way, it was what's now called Malda, and I forgot the name, Ramkeli. When Mahaprabhu met Ramkeli met Rupa and Sanatan and Ram Keli, and he was planning to go to Vrindavan, but in the end Sanatan advised him not to. Then it was maybe on his way to Ram Keli or on his way back, I can't remember, but at that time he came across Keturi Gram, the village where Narottam was born, and he paused on the banks of this river, Padma River, and he called out, Narottam, 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 and everyone was puzzled, his companions, what is he referring to? Who is he speaking of? And then it was in that, that very place, that Narottam, he appeared, and from a young age we hear he showed, devotional tendency. And then there was one incident, maybe he was 10 years old, I can't remember, maybe somebody remembers, but he had it was in the middle of the night, and he had a dream. Maybe Nityananda Prabhu came to him, maybe, and to go to the river. Mahaprabhu had left something for him there, and when he went into the river, he was, this gift of Krishna Prem. Maybe he felt Mahaprabhu's embrace, and he became like, saturated with Krishna Prem from that time. And then showing after that, when he returned to his home, everything was over. He was showing all the symptoms of ecstasy. And it said that his skin color actually changed, and it was darker before, and it became more golden color. And Gurudev, he said that he was considered like a non-different manifestation of Mahaprabhu. And so it just became intolerable for him to continue living in his household life, and he was wanting to go to Vrindavan. He had this inspiration to go to Vrindavan, but his parents would not allow him. Similar to Raghunath Das Goswami, I think he was like the only son. So like he was the heir to this huge fortune, and they didn't want to let him go. And then finally one day his father was away on some business, and he begged his mother, please, mother, please, I cannot continue with my life, if you don't allow me to go, to stay in Vrindavan. And then finally, the mother, she relented, and he left. And first he actually went to Navadvip, and he met with Shyamananda and Srinivas, and they did a Navadvip Dham Parikrama. It was I think it was the third parikrama that had been done. The first parikrama had been Nityananda Prabhu bringing Jiva Goswami, which Srila Bhakti Yoga Thakur describes in Navadvip Dham Mahatmya, right? Nityananda Prabhu personally taking Jiva Goswami around all the sites of the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. So that was the very first Navadvip Dham parikrama. And then the second, I think it was or maybe that was the second. I think it was Ishan. Ishan, the personal servant of Mahaprabhu's family. He took them, I believe, this Narottam, Shyamananda, Srinivas. And then maybe they were the second. And then the third, it was a descendant of Advaita Acharya. And then after that, it was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur who revived that, and it became like a standard Gaudiya practice. So then he met with, this is like the famous trio, the dream team. And they traveled, the ultimate dream team. And they traveled together to Vrindavan, and they took shelter of Jiva Goswami, and they all took initiation from different Vaishnavas. Narottam took from Lokanath Goswami, Srinivas, and Shyamananda, I don't remember. Maybe one of them Bhugarbha Goswami, and I cannot remember. the others. But Jiva Goswami was like their teacher, you know, like their instructor, and he gave them these titles, you know, Narottam, Thakur, Shyamananda Prabhu, and Srinivas Acharya. And they just missed Rup and Sanatan, but they just left the world. We hear a very heart-rending description of that, you know, as they were traveling, they were hearing news, you know, Sanatana Goswami left, and then Rupa Goswami left. It was like they just missed them, you know, like that, like few days, you know, like that. So they just missed Rupa and Sanatana. Jiva Goswami was present, Raghunath Das Goswami was present, maybe Gopal Bhatta Goswami was present, and other venerable Vaishnavas. And they were there for some time, and, you know, received so much instruction from Jiva Goswami. And then Jiva Goswami sent them with this task to take so many of the writings of the Goswamis to Bengal for the Bengali Vaishnavas. We hear Janava Devi, the consort of Nityananda, she was the head of all the Gaudiya Vaishnavas at that time, and she in particular had some request that, you know, these writings could come to Bengal. And I haven't heard, but I expect Chaitanya Charitamrita was also one of those writings, you know, I expect so. But I've just heard like the writings of the Goswamis in Vrindavan, you know, but I haven't heard in particular. So all the Bengali Vaishnavas were very eager to receive these books, and so they were given this like majorly important task to carry these books. And then there's that famous incident when they got to Vishnupur, like just on the border of Bengal, and the books were stolen by this Raj Birhambir, and Srinivasa Acharya, do you know that story? Yeah. I don't want to tell it everybody. I know all of you know, but maybe you don't know that story. It's a very, very nice story. Gurudev liked to tell that story. That they were, you know, traveling by bullock carts to Bengal with all of these precious books, and then they got just to the border of Bengal, this Vishnupur, and it came to night, so they stopped and set up some, you know, sleeping arrangement. And when they woke up in the morning, all the books had disappeared. You know, these trunks had disappeared, and you know, they were like devastated. Like, this was like, you know, the major task, you know, like the, you know, task of a lifetime, and like, you know, they felt like they failed, you know. So they became frantic and were searching everywhere and asking people, and couldn't find any clues. And Srinivasa Acharya, he was like the leader of these three, and he told Narottam and Shyamananda, you go ahead and you start preaching, you know, Mahaprabhu's teachings, and I'll stay behind and I'll try and sort this out, you know, stay here and try and find the books. And he spent quite some time there. We hear he became sick even, like not eating properly, not caring for himself. He was so desperately searching for these books. And then finally, one day, a friend of his invited him to a Bhagavatam recitation that was taking place in the king's palace. And so Srinivas, okay. And so he went there, and he was attending, but finally he couldn't tolerate the explanation that this sadhu was giving. It was of Srimad Bhagavatam, and so, you know, he was like shy to say anything, but finally he couldn't tolerate it. He just stood up and, you know, what is this bogus explanation that you're giving? And they could see Srinivas, he looked like a real Vaishnava. He was very bright, and, you know, and so they said, oh, well, we're happy to hear from you if you can give some better explanation. And so he began to give very wonderful explanation. I read one description. It was it was published in one of the Back to Godhead magazines. It was a description of someone who had been present at the time. And in his description, he said that the walls were melting because his explanation was so sweet. The walls were melting. You can understand that however you like. But that's what he said. And so everybody was so impressed by that. And the king was he was, we'll get to that. So the king was very impressed. And afterwards the king, pulled him aside and said, can I do something for you? Like, who are you? I want to do, what can I do for you? And Srinivas said, well, I've been here all this time searching for these books which I brought from Vrindavan. They just disappeared one night. And this king Rajbir Hambir, he immediately confessed. He said, oh, I have those books, because he had some piety. He was a godly person, but he was a little crooked also. And he had these group of thieves who he employed, and he had an expert astrologer who would make calculations and figure out where there would be a good opportunity for a robbery. And then he would send this band of thieves to go and take those things. And so according to his astrologer's calculations, in the very place where the books were, there were some very valuable jewels. And so he sent these thieves thinking there were going to be some jewels there. And so they brought back the books. And then when the king opened, he saw these are books. And they thought maybe there's some mistake. And so this Jyotish, it's called, he checked his calculations again, and same result, jewels. So the king, he could understand these are not ordinary books. These are some very special. And he was actually doing puja to those books every day. So anyway, when Srinivas told, this is what I'm looking for, he very happily gave them to him, and he actually took initiation from Srinivas. And that whole area, they all became Vaishnavas by the influence of Srinivasacharya. But anyhow, after that, they held a grand celebration in Keturigram, in the hometown of Narottam. And I think we hear that Narottam organized the first Gaur Purnima. And I think that may have been also this festival that they held after these books were discovered. But this very major festival, it's like a historical event in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, major festival. So many Vaishnavas came. Narottam installed 6 deities at this festival. And Janava Devi, she came, and she was she was presiding over everything, the guest of honor, and major festival. So that was held in Keturigram, Narottam's village.
Shamna offers his love and respect to you.
Okay, I offer mine to him also. And also there's the way that Narottam Thakur, he left the world is very, very special, very unique, very wonderful. Narottam, as I mentioned before, he came from Kayasta caste, like a lower caste. And the tradition in India was that you would not accept initiation from a guru that was from a lower caste than yourself. They were very, very strict. There was so much strictness in this, this caste consciousness. in India. So that was the consideration. But Narottam, there were many Brahmins, persons who came from Brahmin birth. They came and begged him for initiation. And Narottam, he would give them initiation. But there were other Brahmins who became very angry about this. They were angry, thinking, who does he think he is? That he's fit to give initiation to Brahmins. He's from a lower caste. So he had some, as any great acharya, great preacher, they have enemies. So Narottam had enemies, and then they created so much trouble for him. There was one incident when some group of Brahmins, Brahmin Pandits, they were great scholars, they came to pick a fight with Narottam. They were going to have some serious debate with him. And I think what it was is Narottam wasn't well. Maybe that's what it was. He wasn't well. And so his best friend is Ramchandra Kaviraj. You hear in this song that we sing of Narottam's, Ramchandra Sange Mage, Narottam Das. That Narottam Das is praying for the association of Ramchandra, Kaviraj. They were very good friends. And so what Ramchandra did is he came up with this whole master plan, to protect Narottam from being disturbed by these people. And so what he did is on the outskirts of the town where Narottam was staying, he set up him and a few others helping him, they set up a little stall selling these clay pots. It was something that travelers used to buy. They would prepare some food for themselves, so they would buy these clay pots they'd cook with. And so on the outskirts of the town, they set up this little stall. And then these Brahmin Pandits, they arrived to the town, and sure enough, they went to this place and they went to buy some of these clay pots. And Ramchandra, he started speaking to them in Sanskrit. And then they were very surprised, this guy, he's just this, clay pot seller on the edge of town, and he knows Sanskrit. And then they ended up getting into some debate, and Ramchandra defeated them. And they were very surprised, and they said, "Is everybody in this town like this? Even you guys, you can talk like this?" And he said, "Don't you know, this is Narottam's town. Everybody is like this here." So they turned around and they left very quickly. If this guy, nobody can talk like this, then what's Narottam going to be like, And then finally, Narottam, he decided to leave the world, and he left his body. And at that time, the Brahmins were making a lot of trouble for him and for his disciples. And Narottam, in his last age, he showed himself as being very sick. And then he left, showing he'd left because of ill health. And then some of Narottam's disciples, they thought, this is going to make things very difficult for us. If our Gurudev leaves like this, the Brahmins will say, oh, he had to suffer like this because of his offenses to the Brahmins. And so they prayed to Narottam, please come back, please don't leave like this. This is going to make things very difficult for us and for your memory. We want you to be remembered in a dignified way, and as the great person that you are. And so they prayed to him, please come back. And Narottam responded, and he came back. And he stayed, I think, about 2 months more. And finally he told his disciples, I'm going to leave in this particular river. I'm going to leave my body here on this day, at this time. And so this was announced, and many people, they came and they gathered in that river in that time, and Narottam, he entered the river, and it's said that his body turned into milk and merged with the water of the river. And of course everybody was astonished to see that, and these Brahmins could understand the offenses that they had committed against Narottam. And we see today there is no samadhi for Narottam. There's a Pushpa samadhi in Vrindavan, but there is no samadhi. So he left in this very miraculous way. And it is an example for us that the Vaishnav, they can leave, as and how they like, and when they show themselves to be suffering from some illness, that is a show, that is like their lila. We hear, is it Vamsidas Babaji? He manifests these sores on his body in his last days. I think it was Vamsidas Babaji. And his whole life he lived in Navadvip. And then in his last years, he left. It's not his last years, but maybe like the very last period of his life. I think he returned to his hometown. And he manifested all these terrible sores on his body. And he would tell the people, look at me, I'm so sinful. I'm such a sinful person. I've lived such a sinful life, and now in my last days I'm suffering. You see, this is my karma full, like that. So he left, like he could have left in Navadvip, in a very serene mood, but he deliberately left Navadvip and showed himself in this very rough way, because he didn't want anybody to think, oh, he's a great Vaishnava. This is the real nature of the Vaishnavas. They are concealing their wealth. So Narottam Thakur, such a great and important Vaishnava in our Sampradaya. He's given us everything in his songs. And he had some spirit, we find he had some spirit like Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, very strong and bold, some, fighting spirit, very strong, we hear in Srila Sridhar Maharaj's song about Srila Saraswati Thakur, the Prabhupada Padma Stavaka, it's called, right? Sujanar Buddharadi. To this song, there's that line, Kaviraja Narottam Sakya Padam. There's some special connection, some similarity there with them, Saraswati Thakur and Narottam. And we hear so many stories about Srila Saraswati Thakur, so we have some sense of that in him. Narottam Thakur, we don't hear that much, but we get some hints of this mood, this one song of his, Anya Bilasha Chadi Jnana Karma Padi Hari Kai. What is it? Remember? Anya Bilasha Chadi Jnana Karma Padi Hari Kai Mane Koribo Bajam. That this song is written as like an elaboration on this verse of Rupa Goswami defining pure devotion. Serve the Lord, free from karma, free from jnana, serve with your mind, your consciousness, as well as your body. And it's if you read that song, it's very strong, Like he mentions, don't worship the demigods 5 times. Don't listen to mundane music. And, so many, it's very, very, very strong. So he had some very strong, revolutionary type of mood, very focused on pure devotion, not tolerating anything else. And of course, he's given us Shri Rupa Manjari Pada. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he points out that Narottam Thakur, he mentions this as one of the peculiar, striking things about Narottam. He mentioned 2 points. One, that his guru was so reclusive, but he was so generous and so broad. So this contrast is interesting. And then the other striking point he mentioned is that Narottam, he had so much devotion for his guru, Lokanath Goswami, to the extent that, he went to clean his stool in the night, and like insisting, you must be my guru, I won't accept anyone else. But at the same time, as in Srila Sridhar Maharaj's words, he was not a blind follower. How much love and how much devotion did he have for Lokanath, but he was not a blind follower. Meaning that, he expressed such extreme aspiration for connection with Rupa Goswami or Rupa Manjari. He could understand, what is this lineage? We hear, we must see Guru in a transparent way. What is it that Guru is giving us? And so Narottam, he had such devotion for Lokanath, but at the same time he had aspiration for connection with Rupa Goswami or Rupa Manjari. And we have this song, Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, but then also in another prayer of his, he expresses, when will Lokanath take me by the hand and put me in the hand of Rupa Goswami? He has a prayer like that. What is it? Kobe mor hatte te dia, Kobe Lokanath mor hatte te dia. Like, when will he take me by the hand and put me in the care of Rupa Goswami? He has this in his writing. And this is something that always gives me a great deal of inspiration about Narottam. Just on a personal level, that Narottam Thakur, he how was it that he developed this extreme feeling for Rupa Goswami? He didn't meet Srila Rupa Goswami. He came after he left. But you read this song of his, and he's identified Rupa Manjari. This is it. This is the goal of our sampradaya. Narottam is the one who has explicitly stated that, right? What our gurus are telling us. We're the Rupanuga line. The highest point of our aspiration is to have a place in the camp of Rupa Manjari in Vrindavan. We hear this from our gurus, but it is Narottam Thakur who's explicitly pinpointed that, But if you think about it, how did he come upon that? He didn't have and such intense devotion for Shri Rupa. How did that happen? He didn't meet Rupa, but through heart's revelation. Through heart's revelation, out of his necessity, out through heart's necessity, this revelation came to him. What I'm trying to say is, truth, these currents of truth, they are living, they are fresh. This is not some, stagnant thing or some historical thing or some textbook thing. These are all living currents of truth. These are there are so many doors of truth that are waiting for us. When we're ready, then that will come to us. The heart receives a revelation when it is in need. When it has that necessity. Like Srila Bhakti Yoga Thakur, he gives the example when Veda Vyas was in that necessity, then Narad came. Revelation came. So everything is there. Everything is living and alive in the plane of consciousness. It is just a question of our own sincere hankering and necessity for it. So, and along these lines we can say, we lost the immediate presence of our Gurudev, but he is still alive, he is still present. He is still waiting for us, with open arms, as we were just discussing. And it is just a question of us giving ourselves more and that necessity being awakened within us. There is so much, that is just waiting for us. Well, anyhow, we pray for the grace of Srila Narottam Thakur today, and we pray we can remain on this path. Okay, we'll stop there. Anyone else want to add anything? Jai Srila Narottam Thakur ki Jai. Tadiya Tirabhav Mahamahotsav ki Jai. Jai Gurudev. Whose turn is it to sing? I don't remember. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopa Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudama Hari Gopi Radha Radha Mohan
Vikrama Shishi Guru Gauranga Datha Giri Ji Ki